Okay, so I am shocked as to this resurgence, this newfound popularity for 11/22/63. I don't know, over like the last year, maybe the last 6 months or so, I have just been hearing about this book from every channel possible. A lot of the booktubers that I watch have been talking about it. My book club that I go to in real life, one of the girls just picked this up as well. I'm telling you, I triangulated on this title from so many different sources, and it's shocking that it was first published back in November 8th, 2011. Well, according to Goodreads, that is. And while it was a bestseller back in 2011, it's now coming back, and I don't know if it's like the new cover or something, or just booktubes just like randomly picking up something to hype up. I don't know what it is, but I have a feeling that it's the current political climate, the current events that are happening that are making us very, I don't know, wistful for the land of ago, if you know what I'm talking about. It's just very interesting that the future, which would be 2011 in this book, and when the main character Jake goes back into 1958, it's just so funny that there's a lot of similarities now that I kept picking up. Even reading this book, I was like, wow, like there's an entire paragraph, I forget on which page, where either Lee Oswald or one of the other Russian defectors are talking about how to, rile up Americans. And it is just so funny because the propaganda is like the same that is being used now. And a lot of the events, there's conversation in the book about turning Cuba into the 51st state. And it's just so funny that despite times being different, the narrative is quite the same. So for those of you who don't know, this book is about a guy named Jake Epping. I think that's how I say it. Anyway, he finds a portal, and sorry if you feel that this is spoilery, but I think it even says so in the back cover. So anyway, he finds a portal in this little tiny diner, and it transports him back to September 9th, 1958. There's a few rules associated with this type of time travel, but ultimately it gives him the freedom to kind of go from today, which is 2011, to 1958. And JFK had been assassinated in 1963, and so given the proximity of the dates, Jake Epping sets out to kind of rewrite history a little bit. This book is like chunky. She is not small by any means. And it comes in at 849 pages. That is the hardcover. And I read it on the trade paperback, which arguably, honestly, is the best paperback. Okay. The mass market paperbacks, I know they're cheap, they're nice, they're lovely, but they're just not my style now, okay? In my big girl money status, I really need the trade paperback. It's floppy, it's lovely. I also read it on my Kindle because let me tell you, this book, man, you cannot put her down. I'm constantly carrying the story with me everywhere. It's one of those stories that will just kind of be in the back of your mind, because you're constantly itching to find out what's happening. So while carrying this very thick paperback, especially if I went out to brunch or, somewhere, it was a little bit inconvenient because of, the amount of pages that is in this book. So the Kindle comes in very handy for sure. And I'm a girly who likes to read in bed, especially to fall asleep and stuff. So again, solid choice there, So getting back to the story, he sets off trying to rewrite history, and it takes him like a little bit to kind of figure out the rules of the time traveling thing, how to use a portal, what happens, all of that stuff. Now, you will have to read the book to kind of find out whether he actually does what he sets out to do, and along the way, what all happens. And I found this entire thought experiment that Stephen King went on to be just, it was just such a great creative experiment to do. I do think that despite it reading smooth as butter, like I did not feel these 849 pages, okay? It felt so easy. He writes in digestible ways. The story is moving forward every sentence. Part of me did feel that it was a very lengthy story for what happened in the end. And you could say this is me being dissatisfied with the outcome of the story. And honestly, you would be right. So when we get to the spoilery section, which I mean, shouldn't be long now, I'll kind of dive into a little bit more. But overall, I think this piece of art is just immaculately done. He writes the story really well. You're immediately able to kind of, understand Jake Epping's position. There's a lot of clues hidden throughout the book. And so there's tons of foreshadowing happening. Things like are very well executed. The plot moves really nicely. Like you get enough answers for you to keep going. And as you keep going, more questions are formed. And that's the best part of this book, is just Stephen King's immeasurable talent to transport the reader to a different world. And that's kind of what really did it for me with this book, is like anytime I picked it up, it was not even difficult for me to fall into 1958. Like it was so easy. And it's because he's done the writing like so well. And you can tell there's an afterword at the end of this book as well, which I read because like it's so masterfully executed, this book, I'm telling you. Even regardless of whether you hate JFK or you're like just not in the mood for it or whatever, or it's too lengthy, trust me, just pick up this book, okay? It doesn't really fit the mold of normal lengthy books. And that's coming from someone who really does enjoy long books, but I would really argue that Stephen King earns his pages in this one. Like, the story, it's very hard for him to cut back any further than what he has without all the explanations that he gives you. Like, he makes a very safe environment for you to, time travel and explore. And you get to know a lot of the characters it's just very well done. So in the afterword, he does go into like him having the idea for this back in 1972, which, I mean, JFK's assassination was still quite fresh at the time, having happened in 1963. So 9 years or so. And he was talking about how like even gathering research at that point is quite difficult without like the internet and like even having to talk to all the people. It's very interesting for me to imagine him trying to go about writing this book back in 1972. And then to think that this man stewed, okay, like a crock pot for the next however many years. I can't math fast enough, but he didn't publish this book until 2011. And I find that to be just incredible. Like the fact that he just had the story in him and he just waited and waited until like all the pieces fell together. And I feel like that takes more willpower and skill than even executing this book. Like the fact that he had a thought that there's a time and a place for this book, and it's not immediately after JFK's assassination, which is appropriate. And he goes into all of the relentless effort that it takes to put something like this together. And I like, if I wore a hat, I would tip it right now. But he's done a really great job at it. And so this was my first Stephen King experience. I'm coming out here. Yeah. I've waited long and hard, not because I have anything against King. I think he's cool and awesome. My issue is that I don't do well with horror or even thrillers that are sometimes disguised as not horror, but I would find them horror-ish, right? So my threshold for anything scary is very low. Like, it's probably below the ground. Like, if you have a basement, that's where my threshold is. So King is just someone that I've avoided, just given all the movies that got made and all of but I'm honestly very happy that this was the story that I decided to wait for, because this experience was just so well done. I cannot extol enough about his writing, especially because it is just, he writes for the common man, and I love that. Like, the complexity, the research, all of that lies largely in his plot, and sometimes the characters that he has, developed throughout the book. But he doesn't try to, overly spice up with like big words or complex sentence structures. Like, he does a pretty good job of just trying to tell the story the way it needs to be told. And I respect that. I respect that hardcore. So this was a great first experience of Stephen King, and I gotta say, I'm a big fan. I gotta start doing more things. I may dabble in horror, probably not, only because I'm a pansy when it comes to horror. But I know if he's capable of 11/22/63, I can only imagine him telling other stories with the same finesse. Okay, so can we please now dive into the spoilery section? If you made it this far, thank you so much. Please do all the things. You know what I'm talking about. Subscribe, like, all that stuff. And also, if you haven't, wanting to be spoilered, please leave. So, getting into spoilers now, I loved what Stephen King did with the narrative. Like, the fact that he kept Lee Oswald this giant question mark up until the last 20% of the book. Did Lee Oswald work alone? Was he a patsy? No one still knows. And I love that. I love that he didn't give a definitive answer, yay or nay. He also had I don't want to say partner in crime, but it was George D. Mohrenschildt, you know who I'm talking about. I don't really know how to say his name. But anyway, I have to refresh myself on actual history now, because I need to know what all actually happened. Maybe this is how I turn into a conspiracy theorist, and if that's the case, then you know what? I had it coming anyway, given my penchant for history. So I'm very excited about it. According to Wikipedia, George de Mohrenschildt, that's what I'm going to go with, he was questioned by the CIA, and ultimately he pled that he did not know Oswald very well. He did not know Oswald would assassinate anybody, especially not the president. And he definitely did not know about the general that Oswald missed a few months prior to the assassination. But the interesting part is that after that testimony in 1963, Mohrenschildt progresses to then commit suicide in 1977. And why would someone who is not guilty commit suicide, right? So I need to look into this a little bit further. And I love that King dances this line of, is Mohrenschildt innocent? Was he an accomplice with Oswald? Who knows, And I love how beautifully he's unfolded that story. There were moments where I got a little annoyed reading the same, the same scenes over and over again, where these two wealthy Russian defectors come over to Oswald and his little, pied-à-terre, and give Marina and little June gifts and whatever else. And the friendship, and I didn't really appreciate the nuance of those multiple scenes until, I guess, at the end of the book, where I was like, oh my God, like the like what he's insinuating with this implies that Morenchild was involved with Oswald and may have actually, pushed him over the edge. But I don't think he actually makes that claim towards the end. So that was a big question mark that I still have, that I'm still like, distraught over. Can you tell I just finished this book like an hour ago and I'm here now talking to you guys? Isn't that wild? I needed a place to put my feelings, guys, honestly. So anyway, moving on to the other spoilers. The whole Sadie storyline, I did expect him to kind of save her from the past, I suppose, but I guess everyone has their time. And I do understand like why he did what he did, because the future was just so wacky that I get it that he had to just put everything back. And I did end up reading the alternate ending on Wikipedia. I believe the other alternate ending is also available on his website somewhere. Please don't quote me on that. But pretty much the alternate ending is one where Sadie remarries after Johnny Clayton. She remarries some guy named Anderson. I forget his Scooter Anderson, something like that. And they have a bunch of children, a bunch of grandchildren, basically they're living the American dream. And she dies of natural causes, well after 80 or something like that. But this is the ending that's actually published was, I guess, scripted by Joe Hill, who's King's son. And if I'm understanding the ending correctly, I guess in real life, so in 2012, Jake Epping, I almost called him Epstein, my bad. Jake Epping goes back to Jody to hang out with her at a party, and they dance or whatever to one of their favorite songs, and do the Lindy Hop and stuff. And it's very satisfying, this ending. The only thing, it still left me wanting an actual happy ending where they're both together, but I understand now that Stephen King just wasn't there's no way to appease a happy ending, a happy love story, happily ever after. That's what I'm looking for there. With the time travel component, those two cannot exist in the same book, I suppose. Because if they did, then that would mean that the future would be altered. So I do like the ending that has been delivered here. I hope that they're both friends or something still comes of it where Jake Epping can still have some form of a relationship with Sadie in the future, and that would be really awesome. But he leaves that up to interpretation, and that's lovely. And then lastly, I wish I had known more about the yellow, the green card man, the orange card man, the ochre card man. I wanted more. That was the one bit that I think King left me wanting on. They explained a lot of the little things that Al had insinuated, and for King to kind of leave this unanswered question from page 1 pretty much till the end, just masterful. I was very excited that this is how he was going to loop that circle closed, and he did it in a very well he executed it in order as well, and so I was very pleased with that. However, I just wanted more. Okay. Having spent reading 850 pages, I just wanted more. I wanted to know more about Zach Lang. Where is he in Seattle? Is he a Democrat? Who is he? And what time frame is he coming from? And all of that was kind of left to interpretation, and rightfully so. I'm just, I want what I want. That's it. Anyway, this has gotten to be quite long. Thank you so much for listening to me if you made it this far, and good night.